Rama asked, "What is the mind? How does one inquire into its nature? And what is the fruit of such inquiry?" The word here for mind is cittam, and it was mentioned on page 188 and described as the psyche. It's the sum total of all our emotions and notions. So we're often being asked to practice inquiry into its nature. So how do we do that? How do we do that? And what is the result of such an inquiry? Vasishta replied, "Consciousness becoming aware of itself as an object is known as cittam. Inquiry is what you are doing now. By this, mental conditioning comes to an end." So in other words, by inquiring into the mind, you go beyond it. Sometimes a problem, once you become aware of it, is no longer a problem. Consciousness becoming aware of itself as an object is known as the mind. And what does it mean that consciousness becomes aware of itself? How does this give rise to the whole network of emotions and notions which we call the psyche? Normally this is described as liberation, consciousness becoming conscious of itself. It's actually consciousness identifying with what arises within it, with its own content, like it does in a dream. A dream is simply consciousness, isn't it? But it's consciousness identifying with its notions, with its ideas, and with its emotions. So in that way, consciousness becomes aware of itself. And usually we get very caught up in the dream, don't we? Usually we're not aware it's a dream. And this is how consciousness works. Consciousness becomes aware of itself. Consciousness gets caught up in itself, just like it does in a dream. Rama asked, "How is it possible for this cittam to be unconditioned so that nirvana may be attained?" So the world of the dream, the world of the waking state, is one of continuous involvement. It's one of conditioning. It's one of being caught up in conditions, or apparent conditions. Vasishta replied, "Surely an object or mental conditioning is not a reality. Hence, the cittam too is not a real entity." So you have to realize the nature of everything as mind created, as dream. Ram said, "But we do experience its existence." And this is the problem again of how do we get over our conviction in the reality of material existence. Vasishta replied, "The world is not what it appears in the eyes of the ignorant. What is real in the eyes of the enlightened is indescribable." So reality isn't all this, but what it is, we cannot say. Because once you start saying what it is, you're getting caught up in all of this once again. Ram said, "What is the vision of the ignorant? And why is it indescribable in the eyes of the enlightened?" Vasishta replied, "The ignorant perceive the world as having a beginning and an end. The enlightened do not see it at all, for it has not been created at all, and hence does not exist." I touched on this in the previous video. The whole idea of a beginning to all this, it's an idea that's shared by both religious and scientific types, that somehow all this had a beginning. Why? Why should we believe that? There's certain scientific evidence which shows that the universe is expanding. And so the assumption is that it's expanding from some kind of initial state. But that's a pure assumption, a pure hypothesis. Why should anything have begun? Even the scientists say there was a point at which there was neither time nor space. But nothing can begin from that point. There cannot be no time and space and then suddenly there's time and space. That's ridiculous. Either there's time and space always, in which case there can be no beginning, or there's no time and space. And we know that time and space is only notional. This is the result of our inquiry. So, believing in a beginning and an end is the perception of the ignorant. It's the perception of those that don't understand the notional nature of their belief in reality. And if there's no time and space, there can be no creation. You have to come back to your own sense of being. That's the reality. Ram said, "But how is it that we experience its existence?" Vasishta replied, "It is experienced as an object is experienced in a dream, when it does not exist in truth." So Rama's really going at it here. He's coming at it from all sorts of angles. But Vasishta's immovable. Vasishta's position is unassailable. And it's Rama's role to try and knock that position. But he's not going to succeed. We experience objects in dreams. How does that work? What is the reality of the objects in dreams? There isn't any. It's the same with the waking state.